You all know what they saw. They saw what we saw. They saw the frail elderly man who needed help getting off the stage. They're just too chicken shit to tell us about it because they accurately deduced that he could still be the Democratic nominee and they don't want to ding him up. Maybe you give Barbara a pass. Who gives a damn what this singer saw or says? But you know what? Jimmy Kimmel happens to be employed by ABC, which happens to have a rather large news organization. And he has been one of President Trump's most vocal critics. Where are you, Jimmy? On vacation? Not good enough. You can still use your thumbs to send out a tweet. You could set the record straight right now, but
when Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly team up for a hypothetical roast, and Jimmy Kimmel ends up as the unwilling piñata, the whole spectacle stops, looking like late-night comedy, and starts feeling more like emergency career. Their ego-cracking jabs and over-seasoned truth grenades turn the moment into a five-alarm circus, with Kimmel metaphorically toasting like a marshmallow someone forgot over the campfire. This isn't your standard celebrity spat, a full-throttle verbal demolition derby. And Jimmy seems to have shown up without a helmet. So what sparked all this combustible banter?
All of a sudden, the ideology shifts because so many people are compromised by this very thing that we were talking about before. The very thing that they use to control the media in terms of the news, they use it to control the media in terms of late-night talk shows and monologues as well. It's the same influence because they're the same sponsors. The same people are spending the same money on the same networks, and it has an impact. If it affects your livelihood and affects your future and your ability to do this thing that you love doing, which is hosting a talk show, and you're doing it on a network that is paid for by that money, guess what?
In this imagined scenario, one offhand Kimmel quip ignited chaos louder and messier than a social media meltdown on its worst night. Once upon a time in late-night TV. Jimmy Kimmel was the resident jester, the guy running beer chug bits and bikini bounce house gags. But somewhere along the way, he swerved so hard that he's now positioned as Hollywood's self-appointed moral sage, clutching pearls over every cultural crisis with the same hands that once applauded fart jokes.
This past 2 weeks, they had the Kennedy Center honors the other night where Joe Biden couldn't say Dionne Warwick. He kept calling her Diane. And he didn't know who Barry Gibb was. He kept calling him Billy. You know who else was honored? At the Kennedy Center. You know who else? Billy Crystal. Just FYI, do you know who once opened up the Academy Awards in full blackface?
Oh,
Billy
yeah.
Crystal. Billy Crystal. And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced, darning socks Oprah. Now, if you are of the left, that's fine. If you are of the right and happen to just say, hey, people used to wear blackface and nobody freaked out about it.
What caused that transformation? In this commentary-packed narrative, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly offer their own unfiltered theories. They didn't tiptoe around it. They fired their critiques straight at Kimmel's evolving on-air persona, lewd, direct, and unmistakably pointed dot. First up is Joe Rogan, the MMA commentator, turned podcast titan and full-time wrecking ball for anything
of self-censorship and the idea of being a more empathetic person is a good thing, right? But as long as it's reasonable. But the thing is, the problem with that kind of stuff is it continues to go in the same direction where more and more things become forbidden and toxic.
He doesn't warm up or ease into criticism. He charges in like a caffeine-fueled rhino, determined to flatten anything that smells even remotely inauthentic. King to Joe. Kimmel isn't just another late-night host. He's a relic from an era when comedy actually carried weight. Not just cue cards stacked with polished virtue, Rogan's take isn't fueled by personal dramas, powered by a deeper kind of disappointment.
Elon Musk joking around about my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Jimmy Kimmel made a tweet back to him. He said, your pronouns are ass and hole. which is pretty funny. But then,
Did he really?
Yes. And so then I read that, and there was people saying, please don't joke about pronouns. It's transphobic to joke about pronouns. So they were chiding him for participating in a joke about pronouns.
Hold on. So Jimmy Kimmel was doing it. He was doing it too.
Yeah.
When a guy builds his career on being the everyday watching Kimmel morph into Hollywood's moral concierge feels like walking into your favorite dive bar only to find they're serving gluten-free kale shots with inspirational quotes taped to the cups. It lands like a betrayal wrapped in a laugh track, and Kimmel's evolution or devolution, depending on who's watching, unfolds like a ready-made satire sketch begging to be written. The man who once rode the edge of comedy like a wild rodeo bull now clutches a polished moral compass that always seems to swing toward whatever earns the loudest applause. Rogan forever hunting authenticity spots, the rebrand from miles away. To him, it's not just a shift. It's a full-blown career Botox makeover. Nothing says I'm still edgy like serving up predictable political talking points.
Show with Stephanopoulos into the evening Academy Awards broadcast with Kimmel and ABC elevating, the blackface lovin' Kimmel. They at the same time fired Chris Harrison, host of The Bachelor, for trying to defend one contestant on The Bachelorette for saying, gee, I know I went to this antebellum party, a couple years ago. I guess I didn't see anything wrong with it. And all he said was, are we judging her by today's standards or are we judging her by, old standards, whatever. He was basically trying to say, are we being too hard on her? Got fired. Chris Harrison has to be fired by ABC. I don't know why, because he's not a committed leftist, because he's not out there more saying all the terrible things about Republicans that Jimmy Kimmel says. So this is them saying, we get it. We're an ally, right? And I guess maybe they're trying to make up with their racist past for their racist past.
Tucked neatly between HR-approved punchlines, Rogan's world stays messy, chaotic, occasionally unhinged but real. It's a place where disagreement doesn't instantly spark a moral wildfire. Kimmel, meanwhile, looks wrapped in the comfort blanket of Hollywood's safe opinions. In Rogan's view, he traded his comedic spark for social media approval. Once unpredictable, he's now beige. It's like watching a 90s punk rocker reinvent himself as a Whole Foods brand ambassador. The jokes still come, but now they arrive with warning labels and legal disclaimers. Comedy that used to land like a punch now reads like a corporate memo. And in a late-night landscape scrubbed spotless for the algorithm, Rogan sees a lineup of clone same jokes, same politics, no edge. While Kimmel plays head babysitter in a daycare for grown. The spark that once made him dangerous feels more and more like a fading memory the media loves.
Hypocrisy is alive and well amongst these sanctimonious leftists. From Kimmel to De Niro to Stephanopoulos, they want you to believe they're better than you, more virtuous, more decent. But we all know the truth. They lie. They sin. They do the very things they accuse you of and the things they say they would never do. Evil things. Like try to destroy people based on feigned outrage from which they spare.
A redemption RCAs, long as you're singing the approved tune. And in this case, Jimmy Kimmel has practically become the lead soprano. Here's where things get interesting. While Megyn Kelly dissects the polished PR maneuvers and perfectly timed apologies, she also zeroes in on the incentive behind the transformation. In her view, Hollywood doesn't reward sincerity. It rewards alignment. Redemption isn't earned through honesty. Granted, for matching the dominant narrative in an industry where values bend easily and loyalty is quietly demanded, you end up with two very different critiques aimed at the same figure. Rogan calling out what he sees as a plastic shell replacing a one CG comic, and Kelly highlighting a performer navigating a media ecosystem that thrives on conformity.
Tweet is transphobic.
Do you think in that case, do you think that's him or a writer? Can't tell.
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
No, it's him for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
good. That's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host the Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous shit back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.